Is the gaming industry heading for another crash? There's a lot of opinions on this. I've had my own. I think it's inevitable that some kind of crash. I don't think it'll be on the scale of the 1983 crash, which was mainly, I was going to say mainly affected Atari, but Atari's the one we all remember because they were probably the biggest scalp taken in 1983. But it is a bit uncanny that the situations are getting very similar to what happened in 83. The 83 crash happened because there was just simply a saturated market of games in different console platforms, and something had to give. There was just too much going on, and so the sales were spread across such a wide area that there weren't really enough for the big companies. I mean, Atari buried something like 700,000 surplus cartridges in the desert in a landfill. You know, that's like, everybody kind of knows that urban legend. It is true, it happened, and that was simply because they couldn't sell them. I mean, a lot of the games was bad as well because anybody could make a game back then. You just needed an old PC and a garage and you were a game developer, you know, and the standard of games dropped significantly and people were just turfing out any old shit. Does that sound familiar, guys? Steam? Early access? The main difference between then and now is we don't have a lot of different consoles, but we do have the Xbox, the PlayStation, and the Nintendo in the console, and then we've got the PC. So there was a way more than that back in the 83 crash. But let's look at modern times. What's alarming? Well, Activision have released their sales figures today, and they are not as good as expected. I've been checking out the analysts on the stock market, and they were all expecting higher revenues, and I'm not surprised at that. Electronic Arts' shares have been going sideways for a while, and they are pinning all their hopes on Destiny 2, which has received some horrific reviews on the actual beta testing that people have done. So it's looking a bit precarious for them. Now, where I think the big problem's going to come from is, I don't think there's going to be a crash anytime soon, but if you look at the sales figures for the big publishers, and we've got, I mean, the two big publishers is Activision and Electronic Arts, but then you've got, you know, 2K, which are the GTA publishers. So you've got a few out there, and then you've got a load of like indie ones, and there's a few other big ones as well. But let's look at the big ones. Well, let's look at the likes of Destiny, the Dishonored, there's Ubisoft, you know, with the likes of Watch Dogs. Let's look at all this. Have you noticed one thing of all the AAA games that are getting released now? They all have a number after them: 2, 5, 6. Because there's no new innovation happening. We are just seeing the same old stuff rehashed over and over and over again, and they are getting worse. I mean, Call of Duty, do we even need to go into Call of Duty? We're playing the same game every year with different graphics and a different story, but multiplayer is essentially the same. It's running around a shitty little map with spawning going on all over the bloody place. Pew pew simulators, that's all they are. It just doesn't change. Even the big games like Star Wars Battlefront, they managed to turn that into a pew pew simulator. It's just a big fucking pew 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 pew.
That's gaming today, guys. And that's all you'll ever get out of a game as bland and boring as Star Wars Battlefront. It's just a giant pew-pew event without any strategy, any tactics, or any decent maps to be able to do tactics on it.
They don't know how to make games anymore. They literally haven't a fucking clue as to how to make a good multiplayer game. But because a lot of gamers is just coming into games now, they have known nothing better, so they don't know about the good games back in the 90s. They have no idea of concept of what a good multiplayer game is, so they're playing this shit and they think it's great, and of course they're going to think it's great because they've never played anything else. It's like, wow, this is fucking amazing, look, I'm shooting that fucking stormtrooper, you know. Yeah, but if you'd played the likes of Medal of Honor Allied Assault, where they had proper multiplayer maps that were thought out, you would see a whole, even the likes of Counter-Strike, the early Counter-Strikes was just fucking light years ahead of what we've got now. The early Battlefield games was so much better designed. They looked like vomit, but they were so much better designed than what you've got now. And people are going to get sick of it. Even the biggest fanboys are starting to get sick of it. There's proof of that. I mean, if you look at Titanfall 2, I know it was released at a shit time, but it did awful. It was a commercial failure, as was Dishonored 2, which I thought was Game of the Year last year. It was a commercial failure. It only sold a quarter of what Dishonored 1 sold. Now that, in whichever way you want to look at it, that is a complete and utter commercial failure. And it's because these big companies are relying on rehashing the same old over. I think there was only 3 or 4 AAA games released last year that weren't sequels. I mean, that shows there's no fucking innovation going on. It's just all the same. And even when there is new, like Horizon Zero Dawn, if you look at that, which was one of the biggest games released on the console, what do? What is that game? I'll tell you what that game is. You just roll around the floor like a fucking prick fighting bosses. Where have we seen that before? It's just the same old game as every other game, just with a different title. There's no innovation there or anything like that. It's just rehashed. Seen it all before. Now, gamers are getting sick of it. I mean, like I said, Destiny 2, apparently from what I've read, it is just it could have been an add-on for Destiny 1. It's pretty much exactly the same as Destiny 1. They've done nothing. They've just said, right, that worked, so do it again. And this is the problem. And this is why I think it's going to crash, because the developers are dependent on huge amounts of sales for these games, and they're not getting them anymore. In fact, I've just been looking at the game releases for 2017. Have you noticed that I'm struggling for stuff to review. I know we're in the summer, but there should have been a lot more big games released, and I just kind of did a bit of a head count. And last year, 2016, there was way more AAA games released than there's going to be released in 2017. And people aren't believing the hype anymore. I mean, look at No Man's Sky. Look at the hype, the false hype around that. People aren't falling for it as much. I mean, yes, you've still got the die-hard Call of Duty fanboys who, if Activision said, you download this game and it gets delivered to your door in a box with a stinky, smelly turd turned up, people would still say that's a great game. I picked up the shit in my hands and squeezed it through my fingers, and it was so fucking good. You see, guys, these big companies are held up on the stock market. That's where they're held up. They have sold off so much of their company to shareholders. They want their return on their investment, and they have to keep saying, oh yeah, but we're going to release this. But what are they relying on? What are they relying on to give them shareholders their money? They are relying on rehashed games over and over again. Like, next year we'll get Star Wars Battlefront 3, Call of Duty 11 or whatever the fucking hell it's up to. I mean, Madden, fucking Madden and FIFA, that's the same fucking game every year. They just change the names on the fucking shirts, and these fucking people buy it. They buy FIFA 16. All right, FIFA 17 now. 2017. Wayne Rooney's now in blue, not red. All right, I'll buy it. How much is it? £40, thanks. These corporate suit executives must be laughing. I can just imagine them when they're at the big party celebrating their wealth, saying, "Oh, fucking good, man! We've released the new FIFA. We just changed the fucking colours. Changed the colours. Added some women's teams because everybody wants to play women's fucking football. Added that and selling it £40. It's the same fucking game. Selling it, yeah, fucking buying it. The fucking idiots buying it. People will stop this soon. And when your entire business is built on sequels, it's got to run out sometime. It cannot sustain itself. They need new, innovative games that people are going to start buying. Because believe it or not, people are going to be getting sick of Call of Duty. People are, you can tell that they've gone back to World War II. That is scraping the barrel. That's going back. They've got to the end, right, let's start from the beginning again, World War II. And so they're going to go back through the whole fucking lot. How many remasters are you seeing? You've just seen Call of Duty remastered. I forget which one. And they're remastering more and more stuff because they can't come up with innovative ideas anymore, because they've been stuck in this stagnant rut of sequels for the last 10 fucking years. They forgot. So I think the AAAs, the big companies, are fucked. I think it's just a matter of time now, and I'm going to sit with my popcorn and watch the fuckers collapse, and it's going to be glorious. But unfortunately, guys, you look at the indie market, and is the indie market going to save us? No, because the indie market is absolutely saturated with shite. That needs to crash. We need to get a lot of these people out of business. We really do. And, you know, I've also been reading a lot about disgruntled workers. You know, game developers working in absolutely horrid conditions, cramped in hot offices with no air conditioning, paid shitty wages to make games for these bigger publishers. And that's what happened in the 80s as well. And they got so fucking sick and they just left and went and did their own. And now that you've got platforms like Steam that's allowing developers to make their own games, and when you see that the successes of like PlayerUnknown Battlefields, which is fucking awful, by the way, I've been trying to play that and the lag is just horrific. But you see how much that made 100 million. You're going to get these people saying, why am I fucking working for you when I could just make my own game? Might take us a year or two, bring a couple of guys with us, and I can make my own. And that's what you're going to see. So you're going to see a lot of these talented programmers leaving a lot of the big companies and just going on their own. They can self-publish now. You don't need that publisher anymore, especially with the amount of YouTubers out there who will promote a good game. The whole thing is changing. We're in a definite change going on, especially with like I said, YouTubers. It's another voice. I mean, some of the YouTubers way bigger than my channel. You know, they're getting millions of views, and you know that's a great hype machine there for anybody, you know. And if you've got a good game and you send them a code, you can do it. I mean, I get sent codes all the time off indie developers. I get about 5 or 6 a week, but I have to play them and see if they're worth wabbing. And do you know, I've played a lot of them this week, and you know, you've seen a few that I've had on the screen here while I've been talking that it was just not worth wabbing because they're just so bloody boring, in my opinion, and just repetitive crap. There literally hasn't been any good. I mean, I've struggled for 2.5 months to fill the content on my channel because there is so little out there, and that's a bad sign, but a good sign if you want to crash. I want to crash. We need to clean out all of these, and if we do have a crash, the consequences will be bad for a year or two. It will, but it'll be better in the long run that we have a crash, and we need a crash, and I do believe it's going to happen, but I think we're quite a way off yet. But I can see the beginnings. If we don't see some new big innovations soon from the big developers, there's going to be a crash. You can't survive on sequels. Press Y and you'll gate crash. That's it. Right now, spam X and kill them all. You don't need to face them. Just come on, don't hide. Fucking fight them, you daft rabbit. X. That's it. Just keep spamming that. You don't need to face them. The game will do that for you. That's right. Just keep spamming the X. That's it. You're kicking their asses. Yeah. Just him to go. Oh no, there's another one behind you. Oh, yeah, you didn't need to aim. And him. Do him. That's it. That's it. Alright, you can stop now. You can stop. Can you break me controller? And now your prize. You get to ring the bell. Yes. One ring. One. Calm down, man. You break me fucking bell, you daft little rabbit. Over here. You once. You little twat.